Hey guys, so in part 4 of my testimony, we kind of went over my time of rebellion from the Lord, and really I like to think of that as the time of my life when I was least in rebellion, because I feel that true rebellion is rebellion against the world, because there's more people acting like the world than people that aren't. So if you're a true follower of Christ, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that is your everything, and you are striving with all your heart to follow Jesus Christ and become more like Him and allowing the Holy Spirit to do His work in you, then you're the true rebel. So I just, it was a time of rebellion, and I'll call it that, but I don't like to think of it that way. It was truly my time of least rebellion. These last few years of my life have been truly the time of most rebellion, and I rejoice in it, because it's the time that I've been following the Lord most wholeheartedly. And so I want to talk about my coming back to the Lord, my real birthday. I was born into the world physically on May 29th, 1991. Now you all know how old I am, so there it is. It's out there. It's public. 26, FYI, at the time of this recording. I've got fuzzy math, so I figured I'd help those people out there that are like me and can't do math in their head. Anyway, that was the day I was born physically into the world, but my real birthday, the day that I was truly born again into the family of God, is March 25th of 2012. And I told you a little bit in the last segment how I met this guy, this pastor, Wade Foster. Shout out to Wade. I love you, man. And just this crazy guy that came to work at a place where I had just gotten a job. He started the job 2 weeks after I did. We struck up a friendship, and God worked in both of our lives during that time. And I found out pretty quickly that he was a pastor, he was a preacher, he was pastoring this small church in Stanley, North Carolina. Great little town. And I kind of made it my mission in life to not shy away from speaking to him about theological things, and I would challenge him about everything. Because there you go, being the son of a missionary family, I knew the Bible. I could talk about it. I knew all the church things, but I also knew that I didn't believe it, and I challenged him on a lot of things. So that was an interesting relationship. But we struck a very strong relationship, and God made it clear to him quickly that he was at that job because of me, in order to reach me. And I thank God that, Wade, you listened to the Lord, and you stayed there, and you didn't give up on our friendship even when I pushed it to the limits and I threw everything in your face. I appreciate that, man. I truly do. I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for your faithfulness to the Lord. So I hope you see this, and I hope that encourages you. Anyway, one day, I don't remember the exact day, we were in the break room and at work, and he was telling this story about how his sound guy had left the church or something or other. He lost his sound guy, and I had experience running lights and sound at a previous church. And like an idiot, I spoke up and I was like, "Oh, hey, I can run sound." And he looks at me without missing a beat, and he goes, "I'll see you Sunday." And he walks out of the room. At least that's how I remember it going. It was something like that. I don't want to lie to you, but it was along those lines. I committed myself by putting my foot in my mouth. I committed myself to running sound at his church. Now, anybody in their right mind, especially in the place of sin that I was in and running from God that I was in, wouldn't have showed up. But I showed up. Sunday rolled around, and he told me what time church was, told me how to get there. And I got hammered the night before. I don't remember what I did the night before, except I know I was hammered. Who knows what else I did. But I woke up somehow, hungover, probably still too drunk to drive, pulled on my clothes, smoked probably an entire pack of cigarettes on the way there, and I drove up to church. And I showed up, and he let me run sound. And I remember afterwards, after the service, people just coming up to me and complimenting me on how good the sound sounded, how good it sounded in church, and just complimenting me on it. Honestly, I don't remember what I did. I I'm not the best sound guy in the world. Don't ask me to, I have people that do my technical stuff now. They edit my videos, they post them, because that's not my gifting. So God was really using them to reach me, because that was not, I'm sure it didn't sound as good as they made it out to be. But anyway, they just told me how glad they were that I was there, and good to meet me, and how they couldn't wait to see me again. And I reeked of alcohol and cigarettes. Anyway, the next week, I showed up again, drunk and hungover and reeking of cigarettes, and I'd go out back behind the church where nobody could see me to smoke, and this happened for months. And during all this time, these people just loved on me and loved on me and loved on me and would not give up. They would not give up, telling me how much they loved me, and they were really genuine about it. They meant it. And that's what got me in the end. So March 25th rolled around, and I did sound at church like every other week, hungover and reeking of cigarettes and sin. To this day, I can't tell you what pastor preached on. All I remember is after service, I knew I was done. I didn't know where else to go from here. I was so depressed. I didn't know what to do with my life. I knew I was on the rocks, and there was no other direction for me to go. But I just remember after the service just really, really craving a cigarette. And this voice inside of me was telling me just to go outside and to smoke a cigarette. Just to go smoke a cigarette, to get out of there, and smoke a cigarette. And so I walked out of the sound booth, and I started to walk towards the doors to leave the building. But for some reason, I walked right by them. And I walked down the side of the sanctuary towards Pastor. He was up front. There were elders praying for him after the message he had delivered. And I remember he looked at me, and everything in me was saying, turn around and leave. Turn around and leave. Turn around and leave. But for some reason, I couldn't stop walking towards him. And he looked at me, and he knew something was up, and he dismissed the men that were praying for him. And he looked at me, and he said, what do you need? And I looked back at him, and I said, I don't know. But I know I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And he looked at me, and he said, follow me. And he started walking back through the building to his office. And I remember it was like there were chains on me. He was dragging me back there. I couldn't help but follow him. Everything in me was screaming, just leave, you're an idiot. What's he gonna do that's gonna help you? Just leave. You want that cigarette, right? But I could not stop following him. And I got into his office, and I sat down, and he looked at me, and he said, what do you need? And I said, I don't know, Wade, but I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm done with it all. I can't do it anymore. I just remember repeating that over and over and over. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And I remember the oppression in the room and feeling those conflicting voices in my head of those spirits. Just get out. Just get out. And he was talking to me and sharing Jesus with me. And I don't remember all he was saying, but he was praying for me. And he said, are you ready? And I said, I don't know. And finally he said, I can't do this alone. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he said, stay there. And I swear to you, it felt like he shackled me to that chair. He walked out of the room and I couldn't get up. Something was holding me down. He came back with 6 other people. There were 7 people in that room. And they all started praying over me. And at this point, I can't remember what. I don't know what was happening. All I know is they were praying, and I could smell sulfur. Can't make this up, guys. I could smell sulfur and hear swords. You think the spirit world doesn't exist? It's more real than what we eat and drink. I'm telling you, it's real. I was witnessing the battle for my soul in that moment. And all of a sudden, I knew with utmost clarity that God had his hand of protection on my life all these years. And if I didn't surrender to him right then, that he was going to lift his hand of protection over me. And that would be it. It was my do or die moment. And finally, Pastor looked at me and he said, I don't know how long it had been, but I was crying. I was still stuck in that chair. And he said, are you ready to give up? Are you ready to give your life to Christ? And I said, yes. I think at this point, I was on the floor. I don't remember how I got there, but I was on the floor and I couldn't move. All the voices whispering to me, everything conflicting in my mind and my head. And he said, I'm going to pray, repeat after me. And so he led me in the sinner's prayer and I repeated after him. And immediately, I'm telling you, immediately that I confessed Jesus as Lord and risen from the dead, everything fled. I could feel the Spirit of the living God flood into my bones like a refreshing wind, and the Holy Spirit chased out so many things instantly. Hard drinking was gone immediately. That spirit left. Perverse language, gone. I never struggled with that again. Not to the degree that I used to. My promiscuous lifestyle, gone. He left some things that I had to struggle through. But all those things particularly were gone immediately. And I became washed in the blood of the Lamb in that moment. And from that second forward, I have been standing in the waterfall of grace that flows from Emmanuel's veins. I accepted that gift that he poured out for me upon his death and resurrection. And I've been a new person ever since. I've been his son, adopted into the family of God. And from that day forward, my life has been so fulfilled. I don't know everything, I don't know all the answers, but I do know that I am redeemed, that I am anointed, that I am called, that I am saved, I am beloved. Anyway, that's the story of my real birthday. I'm sorry this video is a little longer. It needed to be said. Hallelujah. I love you guys. God bless.